Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Together Forever Challenge, or as we like to call it, How to Build a Super Secure, Successful Marriage for Life.
Yes.
We are on day number 3. Yesterday, we talked about the first obstacle to building a strong, healthy marriage, and that's not listening to your partner. And we talked about how important it is to listen not only to their words, but also to the feeling behind the words so that we can address what the issue really is. Today, we're going to be talking about not playing the blame
Yep.
game.
Stop the blame.
This is a huge one, especially in marriages that we see. Something will happen and it's going to sound something like this. Why do you always do that? Why do
Yeah.
you never do that? You heard yourself saying that before?
I can't believe you just.
That's what blaming sounds like. And when we blame the other person, immediately defenses
Oof,
go up
big walls.
and the discussion's really almost over, or it's leading to a major fight.
I'll
So,
tell you why I do that.
um, so in order to stop the blame, again, yesterday we talked about listening and we talked about how it's all about perspective. When my wife says something like, "You never do this," I need to take a breath, step back, and say, "Hey, what's going on? Tell me what's happening."
And I'm
What?
usually going to tell them about some hurt that's festering around in there, that's building up a bad attitude in me that happened to just come out of my mouth.
And most of the time, actually a lot of the time, it has nothing to do with me. It
Hmm.
has nothing to do with the other person. There's this hurt that is just going on, and for whatever reason, I happen to touch the right spot and I get the big
Bam.
reaction.
Yep,
All right.
absolutely. And the blame game is on.
Right. And so, in order to combat the blame game, again, you want to step back and say, "Hey, tell me about what's going on." And then we can have a conversation. We can use our listening skills. And then again, we can pray healing over them.
Yeah, you remember the other day when we were hanging out with those friends and she was talking, I don't even remember about what, and we saw that whole blame game happening. You remember what happened?
Yes. So, we were recently with some friends. They had a freezer that died. After the freezer died, the husband asked the wife, "Hey, please make sure you take all that stuff out of the freezer and let's get it over to the other freezer so it doesn't spoil."
Couple days later, still hadn't happened. And you know, it did happen. All of that thawing meat dripping everywhere. Ooh, yeah,
Not only did it spoil, but it caused a huge stink.
bad.
So we're there, we're in conversation, and this deal keeps coming up. The husband keeps bringing it up and bringing it up and bringing it up. So he and I were alone together, and I said, "Hey, I noticed you keep bringing this up. Let's pray for your wounds."
Yeah.
And so we did. And then he confessed his sin of judging her for letting all of that meat rot, creating that huge stink in the house. And immediately that blame stopped. We were
Yeah,
there for several more days and never heard a word again
not a peep.
about the freezer.
Mm-mm.
That's the power of not blaming, and it's also the power of listening, dealing with the wound, confessing the judgment, and being able to move on. So, how do you know that you're blaming? Have you ever found yourself bringing something up that happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
We hear it all the time
Can't let it
when
go.
we're counseling married couples.
Yep.
It's like, well, you did this and you did that and whatever. And that happened a long time ago.
Hmm.
So if you find yourself bringing up those types of things, number one, you know there's a wound there that's still festering. It hasn't been dealt with. All right. You can also tell by the tone of voice that there's
Mm-hmm.
probably a judgment that has been made also that we need to get rid of. And when we do that, I can remember that Jenny did something
Yep.
when we were first married almost 30 years ago, but it's been dealt with
Yeah.
and it doesn't hurt me anymore. It's a fact that happened. That's how you know that you've been healed. When you can go back, remember what happened, and it doesn't sting
Mm-hmm.
anymore. And then you can stop blaming your spouse for that thing that happened so long ago. You can focus on what's happening in the here and now, and you can have a peaceful home life.
Yeah, it gives you the opportunity to respond differently, to walk differently, to do things differently. So, another way that you can tell if you're judging is when in your mind you say, I shouldn't be responding like that. Why am I still getting angry at him for that? Why can't I let it go? Right? Why do I still think about that and let it trip me up? Well, you're not free to respond differently. You're still trapped by that bad attitude that you've had when that blame game popped up. So again, just another thing to do that self-check and say, okay, where is that coming from? And sit down with your partner, with your spouse, and walk through it, talk through it, pray through it. And that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow on day 4 is why it's so important to not go this journey alone.
Mhm.
So thank you for joining us today. We are looking forward to seeing you tomorrow on day number 4 of the Together Forever Challenge.
See you tomorrow.